So we are on Mem Aleph Amid Beis. There are the two dots, 15 lines up from the bottom. So he said, if one aide says it happened on the third day, and the other one said it happened on the third day of Teves, and the other one said it was on the fourth day of Teves, we accept their test. We don't say that that's a stira, and we accept it. Because we say they could have been mistaken about the Ibura Shel Chodesh, about whether it was a full month or a chaser month, whether it was 29 or 30-day month. So one guy, didn't know, he wasn't up on it, and therefore they got out of joint. So ad kama. Until what point in the month is it possible to still say that the guy doesn't realize that he's a day off? Until the middle of the month. By the time you get somebody, he's going to try to write a check, and someone's going to tell him you're a day off. It's going to come up before then. He's going to realize that he's off by a day, and he'll be corrected. So if it would be, let's say, the 17th day of the month versus the 18th day of the month, the stira in the two Edim, that would not be believed. We said if it's 3 and 5, then it's batal. Why don't we say the same way we say that they're off by 1 day because someone made a mistake about the Ibur? Why could it be that they made a mistake of 2 Iburs and that's why it's 2 days? Allah, Mishum the Rubi Yada must be l'chayr, because once you get past the 15th of the day, a person gets straightened out, so a person can never be off by 2 months at the same time. Someone says that's not a right. Really, they don't know by half of the month. He just knows by the shofar. They blow the shofar to announce the new chaydish. Make a mistake on one end of the month, not two. So that's not a raya that it goes necessarily by half a month. It could be it's by a month itself. Okay, so we're 5 lines to the bottom. I'm Aleph Amid Beis. A little bit, a couple of days behind. Mem Aleph Amid Beis. So to one of the mysterious topics that comes up every month. Amar of Acha, Bar Chanina, Amar of Asi, Amar of Yechanan. At Kama Mevarchan al Chodesh. Till how much can we bench the new month? Meaning we say we do Kiddush Levana, right? We make a Birchas HaChodesh. Until what point in the month can you do it, right? Every month of Shabbos, like we had this Shabbos, everyone asks, can we start? Is it yet time to do the Birchas HaChodesh? Is it too late? So the Gemara says, Machlekes ad shetamala p'kimasa. The Gemara says, so Rabbi Yechanan said, until the moon is filled out, until it fills up what's missing. The kama, how much is that? Am Rav Yaakov Aridi, Am Rav Yehuda at Shiva. Rav Yaakov Aridi says b'shem Rav Yehuda, that means up until 7. That means until 7 days. Nardoi Amri at Shishas. Other one, and the Nardoi say in Bavel they say until the 16 days. That's when you could be bench do Rosh Chodesh benching. The Travay Rabbi Yechanan Svirlu. But they're both really explaining what he had said. He had said, until when could you do Rosh Chodesh benching? He said, until the moon is filled in. But they're arguing about what that means. Svirlu. The Mandamu said that it has to be until the 7th day. It's because the way the cycle of the moon, we're not so familiar with it because we don't, we have clocks and calendars and everything. But in the old days, everyone knew the first half of the month, the moon starts, it's gone, right? And then it slowly comes back. And eventually, middle of the month, it's full. So 7 days is in between being when there's no moon to being a full moon. That means it's a half moon. So when it fills what's missing, it means it starts as a crescent. When that crescent fills in, so you basically have like a half of a coin, a half of a circle. That's what it means. Namala p'kimasa, when it's missing the the inside of the crevice, the inside of the crescent, I'm sorry, when that gets filled in, that's when you can no longer be mechadish the new month. And the other one holds it has to be like a sieve, which is really a round circle when it's full. So that means it has to be till the 16th day of the month. He says, okay, so it's fine that after this point, you can no longer make the bracha of mechadish. And we're going to see what the bracha is, mechadish chadashim, or what we say. But he's saying that which Rabbi Yehuda says, ad shiva. Why can't between the 7th day and the 14th day? Why can't you make a bracha atayva mektiv? The moon's coming back. This is a good thing. You'll be able to see better. Very interesting question, right? That all of a sudden we're switching. We're talking about being mechadish, being mekadesh to levana. He says, okay, we can't make the bracha, but let's make atayva mektiv because we're getting something good. If he's saying we should make a bracha atayva mektiv when the moon is waxing, why wouldn't we make a dayan emes when it's waning, when it's going away? And we know we don't do that. The levarach hatayva meitiv. You're saying you should make a hatayva meitiv in the first half of the month, and you don't make a dayan emes in the second half of the month. So why taka don't you make that? The answer is, which seems obvious, that since the moon comes and goes every month, we don't make a bracha atayva meitiv and a dayan emes on something that's part of the schedule. It's scheduled to happen. It's for something unexpected.
And then why do we make any bracha? Or do a whole...
No. That's a different thing that we bench. That's not where did that come from?
Because the whole thing was we started, if you can't say it, let's say a bracha. Now we're saying you don't need to make a bracha. So then...
Yeah. No, we're saying that even though you can't make the Birchas HaChodesh, I don't know, I don't remember the source for the Birchas HaChodesh, for the Chiddush Levana. But that's not a bracha atayva meitiv. We're saying now to do the generic bracha of atayva meitiv and dayan emes and apply that to the Rosh Chodesh pension. And we're saying it doesn't apply to something that's scheduled, but the bracha of Birchas Levana that certainly applies. That's not a generic bracha. That's not a bracha that we stamazeh make and we apply. That's a special bracha for Kiddush HaChodesh. Kol hamavorach al HaChodesh v'zman ekil mekabel pnei shechina. It's as if it was mekabel the pnei shechina when you make the Birchas HaChodesh. K'sev hacha HaChodesh zeh, u'k'sev hasam zeh keli v'amveyu. Zeh keli v'amveyu is what is referring to the shechina. So it says zeh by both of them. So it's telling you that as if you mean mekabel the shechina. Tana be'Rabbi Shmuel ilmoli zach Yisrael lahagvel pnei avim sheb'shmayim kol chodesh v'chodesh dayim. It would be enough for the Yidden to have hakaras hatoiv. For that, we're able to be mekabel the Shechina every month. All this should be very familiar to everyone. Therefore, we say it standing since it's Kabbalas HaShechina. Merim Mazutra Michtafi Umevarchi. Merim or Mazutra, either Michtafi Adadi means that they leaned on each other to make the bracha, or they leaned on others. They were very elderly, but they would stand up for Birchas HaChodesh. In the West, meaning in Eretz Yisrael, they make a bracha on Birchas HaChodesh, Baruch Mechadish Chadashim. He said that's the woman's bracha by us. There's a whole long explanation that they give about why women have a different bracha.
I'm making the bracha.
Why are we making a bracha? I don't know the Gemara about it, but I assume it's back. We learned we probably had it back in Rosh Hashanah. Is that what we had all about Birchas HaChodesh? I think it's a mitzvah to be mekadesh. It's a Birchas HaMitzvahs, right? It's a bracha to be mekadesh to Chodesh. So you're kind of the mitzvah. It's not. We're not doing the Birchas HaChodesh. I guess in the kiyum of that mitzvah, we do a bracha. But I don't know the answer.
This is not grammar.
No, it's not.
No?
It's not an actual mitzvah. We don't have a mitzvah to be mechad. We're not being mechad the mitzvah when we make berachas hachodesh. We're not mechad. It's a bezdin. They have right. They had the bezdin. They would have the edim come. It was the whole thing. Ella Kedu Yehuda. They say that it has to do with that women have a specific mitzvah that's tied to the chodesh. Every chodesh they used to celebrate, so they made this bracha. Ela Rav Yehuda. The proper bracha is like Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda Baruch Hashem b'mamari baruch shakim, that he created the heavens. Baruch Piv Kol Tzvam. He created all the malachim and shemayim. Chayku Zman Lasan Lahem. He gave. I'm sorry, not the malachim and shemayim. It means the heavenly bodies. Chayku Zman Lasan Lahem. He gave them their rules and their times, that everything goes in order. They don't change. They don't fail to do what as they're supposed to do. And the heavenly bodies are happy to do what the Rebbe Shalom commands them. They are true workers. That the work that they produce is true. And to the moon, the Rebbe Shalom said that it should be mechadish, to be an atara, to be a glory, for those who are born from the womb, for human beings. Because the Yidden are also they're intended, or they're expected to be mechadish, just like the Levana that we're also going to have Mashiach is going to come someday and mechadish us. Lefar liyotzim, and to provide a pe'er, provide glory to the Creator. Al Shem Kvoed Malchusay. Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadish Kadashim. He ends with Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadish Kadashim. But you have this whole long bracha beforehand, not just the simple bracha of Mechadish Kadashim. Now the Gemara continues with another memra from Rabbi Bar Chanina, who is the one who just said this vart. Ki b'tachbula is tasalach chama, with through their thoughts, through their strategies, they make mechama. Rabbi Bar Chanina, Rav Asi, Rav Yechon. B'mi'ata moitza mechamta shel Torah. Who will you find success in the mechama shel Torah? Mishi yesh biyadei chavila shel Mishnah. With a person who has a lot of bundles of Mishnayos. He has a lot of Bikiyas. This is a great Rashi. If your kid ever comes back and he says, I only learned one blot this whole Zman, because we're learning Be'in, from this Rashi. Mechamta shel Torah, Haryasa, to learn it. V'lamed al Burya, to understand it. V'al Ikra, and to know what it means. Loika Adam HaMefulpul, not like a person who's mefalpul in learning, umechuded, and he says sharp things, uval svar, and he says svars. But he doesn't know a lot of facts. From which he could have understood the secrets of what the Torah is saying. The only person who can really learn properly is someone who knows a lot of Mishnayos. If he needs to understand something in one spot, he'll be able to understand it from what he saw somewhere else. If he has a stira, he'll know through all the Mishnayos that he knows. The problem, the stira is because this is this particular Tana, that he said something different. When you have a stira, I could say, oh, this is different shitas, because I saw someplace else in a Mishnah. So this is a Rashi that says that the way of learning is not to look at something and be mefalpul, try to come up with svaras. The way of learning is you could be mefalpul, but based on knowledge that you can look at other. If you do a daf a day, you do a blot a day, you start to know a lot. So when you have a kasha somewhere else, you're not going to just come up with the svara to understand it. You'll say, "Oh, this I already saw where this Gemara was referenced somewhere else." So this way of looking at things. I had a lot of hana from this Rashi. I definitely learned it with my son last night when he called. The Gemara says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped." Kari Rav Yosef Anafshe v'Rav Tuas b'Kayach Shar. Rabbi Yosef called himself Rav Tavoy, so has a lot of grain, b'kayach shar, with the strength of an ox. So if there's no Rashi, Taisa says what that means. Rav Tavoy, mishum the Yosef ikri b'char shar. This is Rabbi Yosef. So Yosef, the Shevet, the one of the Shvatim was called the b'char shar. Kedoseh b'char shar hadalei. Bal shmoisu, bal chitin. He was he had a lot of, he had the grain, chitins, wheat. Everyone needs maruchita, which we touched as meaning the Gemara. Yosef was a person who amassed a lot of Torah, so that's why he was called Rav Twis, because he had amassed a lot of wheat, which is Torah. We said if one said it happened in 2 hours at 2 o'clock. I'm sorry, not 2 o'clock. At 8 o'clock a.m. and the other one said 9 a.m. That's okay. But if one said 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., then if one aid said 8 a.m. and the other one said 10 a.m., that's a stira and it's not a good aidus. And we said even if it's 1 hour, but if it's one's before chatzais and one's after chatzais, that's not good. Amrav Simbi Barashi Loishan Ol Shois. That's only if there's a mistake in the times, right? One said 8 o'clock a.m. and one said 9 o'clock. You do some betelu, the edus is bottle, just like before chatzais and after chatzais, before nates and after nates. It's like a pshita. It's pasha, just like everyone knows the difference between when the sun is on one side of the horizon, it's toward the east and one toward the west. So even a few minutes you could tell. So same thing with nates achama. Or nates. One said it was before nates and one said it was at nates. So it's the same thing. Could be that the one who says it was already nates, it was really alois. It was really just he saw the glow from the sun. It wasn't that the sun had actually risen, but we were standing, it already got light. Like we know, it's the sun starts getting light outside even before the sun rises. So he thought it was already nates when it really wasn't. So maybe you would have thought that that's, even though they're so one says before nates and one says at nates, Kamash will know that everyone will know the difference.
If they saw it together, I mean, if they were witnessing the Lavana together.
You mean the sun? No, we're talking about the sun. We're talking about Adam that said Adus about. One said, let's say it was 8 o'clock in the morning. The other one said 9 o'clock. So he said that's not we don't kick out the Adus. We don't say they were contradictory Adus because it could make a mistake from an hour. They didn't have clocks. They didn't. So they looked based on the sun. That's how they determined what time it was. So we said, but if you could have an hour gap between them, and they could make a mistake, and that doesn't invalidate their edus.
So we're not talking about.
We're not talking about Kizvan. No. Now we move back to the Mishnah, which is talking about if you have separate edus that contradict. So it was saying that they could make. One would have thought you might make a difference between before and after sunrise, because the sun it starts getting light before the sun rises. Kamash will know that everyone knows the difference between before and after sunrise. We said if you by dinei nefashis, if you came to a conclusion that they were all arguing, everyone was capable of bringing in arguments to be matir. So he said if one of the Talmidim stood up and said, I have a reason to let this guy off the hook, to get him out, you bring him onto the Sanhedrin, and he stays there for the day. Does he only stay there for one day? If one of the Talmidim said, I have a good kasha, I have a good reason to be mad to someone, he gets, not only does he go on the Sanhedrin, he gets elevated to be a member of the Sanhedrin permanently. But if what he says does not have any mamish, if it's no substance to what he's saying, then he just stays for that day. We don't tell him if someone stands up and says a reason to be matir, he has to, and they slug him up. They don't say to sit down immediately, because then people will not be motivated to offer a reason, because it's going to be embarrassing. They're going to stand up, they're going to say something, they're going to say you're wrong, and he sits right down. So therefore, they let him stay as part of the Bezdin for the day. But in any case, we see, but if there is substance, what he says, he stays on the Bezdin. So why did our Mishnah say he goes down at the end of the day? Our Mishnah is talking about where if he was proven to be incorrect. But even so, he gets to stay for the day, like we just said, the cheshbon, so shouldn't be embarrassed to speak up. We said if we found a schus, we let him free. If we don't find a reason to let him free, then he gets killed. But we said, what if it became even? They were, or at the end of the day, they didn't find enough to be matter, so you have to wait till the following day. We said that the people had to retire home. They went as pairs, and that's what it says in the Mishnah. And they would sit and discuss the case. And the Mishnah said that they're not allowed to drink. They don't eat a lot and they don't drink during that time. So tomorrow, yain my time alone. Why can't they drink while they're considering the case? To those who are roiznim, there's no beer, there's no wine. We teach this to mean those who are involved in the secrets of the world, al yishtak, where they shouldn't become shikar. So and Taisa says that's dinin nefashos avaloi dinin amnis.
What does Roiznim mean?
Roiznim are secrets. I mean that's the type that's given here. I think it might have a different pashtup shot, but that's what the Gemara here is saying. Leiro, the Gemara continues. Matzu leischos. So the Mishnah ends at the end. What happens if you have, let's say, a bezin of 23, and you have 12 are saying he should be chayiv, and 11 say that he should be acquitted? So we said in the Mishnah, you have to have a margin of 2 in order to convict someone of dinin nefashos. So you go back and you try to decide it until someone from the group that says it's potter, who says that it's chayiv, switches their mind and says he's potter. And we said before in the Gemara, it could be the other way around. But they keep on deliberating. You don't just make it a hung jury, or really not jury, but it's not a hung court. What if they kept on trying to come to a decision and no one was bending? All the convictors were sticking to their guns, and all those who said he's potter, like we said, they could change, even if they say that he should be acquitted, they could change their mind by the Gemara din. Ravacha says, so you let him free. If you're not able to come to a decision and you don't have enough to convict him, you have to let him go. If that's the end result, at the end, that if we're not able to find enough to pat him, we let him go. If we left without a sufficient margin to convict, we let him go. Why don't we do that right from the beginning? We're hoping that they'll come to a decisive decision, because we don't want it to be left up in the air. That the Bezdin wasn't able to come to a conclusive result, and therefore we let him go. We'd rather that they go out not confused, but decisive, with a decisive decision. Ikadami, others have a different version. Amalei Rapapa Labayev, Alamali Yasifu. Because the Mishnah had said that if one person, in a different case, if we had 11 saying he's chayiv and 11 saying he's potter, and one person saying I don't know, so you if you add to the Bezdin. So he's saying Lamali Yasifu. Why don't we just pot him, since we're saying we don't have enough to convict him, and we have a split decision, and like we're saying that we just said before that you should let him go. So why don't we let him go like this? Amalei Rabbi Yossi Kai Kavasach. Rabbi Yossi Taka holds like this. The Tanya Rabbi Yossi, I make shame she'im Sifin al Bezdin shall shivim v'echad. Just like you don't add to a Bezdin of 71, the Sanhedrin of 71, Kachem Mesifin al Bezdin shall less than V'shlosh. Rabbi Yossi Taka doesn't hold to this din of Mesifin that you add on if one of the judges can't make up their minds. And you just let him go free if you don't have the 23.
So again, if you have 11 versus 12, you try to convince one of the 11
I'm chayiv. So
That was the first one.
that's the first part. So,
Yeah.
And we said, so why didn't you say that way lechatchila? Because then they get confused.
Yeah, it'll appear confusing.
So the next one we're saying, so
Come on, talking about a different topic.
right.
Why by 23 is someone who doesn't know?
So we only
Do we
say-
keep adding on? Why
Right.
don't we just say we let him go free?
as opposed to try to convince them to do something else we just said earlier.
Yeah.
That's
Or
what-
adding on instead of adding on.
Either adding on, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little.
It's funny, right? Because the only one you say I don't know, we add on. We don't try to convince them.
I mean,
As if you say Mechayev, we try to convince you to say liftar.
the problem with this is that the Mishnah had said, even if you have 22 people saying he's chayiv, and one person says Eini Yedeya, you add on, and then you could. So what's going to happen according to Rabbi Yossi? According to Rabbi Yossi, who says you don't add on, you're going to let him free on that case?
Another question. I'm just in my head trying to get it straight, and it's hard.
Those are Medina Kamal. Lama Maisifin, Mishanechliku Harishonim, Yadainu Ela Keneged Elam, Ra Echad Me'elu as Devre Elu Harei Toivim, Lav Iftaru. So Rashi does not seem to be talking about, he says, well, they come out even, instead of being, I mean, we only said to be Maisif when they're, not when they, I don't think we said to be Maisif in the Mishnah, just because they were deadlocked. It was 12 to 11. It was only when there was someone said any idea. Rashi seems to be saying when they're even. Maybe it means when you have an even split and one says any idea. Right, Tanarabban. I'm b'dinei mamles nizdak and hadin. You say in dinei mamles that nizdak and hadin, that the din is it's already the way it is. By dinei nefash nizdak and hadin. By dinei nefash we don't say the din it's stuck the way it is.
What's that mean?
Mine is dark and hadin. That's what the Gemara asks. What does that mean? Ilay makash dino. So one pshat is that it means this is a difficult din, and we have to just leave it as it is. We can't come to a conclusion. So, it doesn't make sense to say by a dine Mamonis was saying if you have a difficult din, you say it's difficult, and therefore go think about it more to come to a decision. But by din nefashos, you don't say but you just make a decision on the spot. It should be the other way around. It should be Amar Rav Huna B'Amar Noach Mishmei Rav Acha Brei Ravika Epach Eina Chanami. You do switch it around. Rashi Amar Olam Lo Yitepach. Rashi says no, you don't switch it around. Mine is dakan, and so he has a different shot, and one is dakan adinis. Chacham dina. He said that he declares that the din is correct. That the head of the bezdin announces that this din is correct. So by dine mamonis, by dine mamonis, the head dying could say, okay, we've discussed it enough. It's now time to have a vote and decide the din. But by dine nefashos, he doesn't have that option. You have to, as long as people are trying to say reasons why he should be pater, he has to give as much time as people want to keep bringing their svars, which makes sense, right? Meisve. Gadol sheyadon and omer nizdaken adin. The head of the bezin is the one who says it's time to move. Basically, nizdaken adin is to say that we're either we're going to continue arguing or it means that we're going to end the din, the Gemara din. But it's the decision of whether we should move to the Gemara din or not. So if it's to say that the din, the conclusion we've come to is final, and now it's time to vote, we have to make a Gemara din Hainu Amar Gadol, and it makes sense that the Gadol should. Eli Amrit Kashtin, if we're saying that it's difficult and we're not able to yet come to a decision, it's not enough that the Gadol shouldn't say it. It's an embarrassment for him. It's not a good thing to say that we're not able to come to a conclusion. So why do you should have the court recorder? You should have some nudnik, some functionary say that we're unable to come to a decision. Why does the Gadol have to do it? It's embarrassing for him. No, it's taka better for him to do it. It's more of a busha for the Gadol, for the Av Bezin to be sitting there and the secretary to announce that the Bezin was unable to come to a decision, or if he announced it himself, it was better to take the bulls by the horns. If you know you're in a bad place, better to admit it. It's less embarrassing than have someone else say it about you. Another version of this is, if you say it's kashni, where he's saying that we can't come to a conclusion, that's why the gadol does it, because he doesn't want to be mevoish by having someone else announce it. It's coming to make the final announcement. Gadol is shvuchi mashbech nafshe. Does the gadol say, it sounds very arrogant to say we have come to a decision and I'm announcing we did a great job. A stranger should praise you and you shouldn't praise yourself. And this sounds almost boastful by the Av Bezdin. It's like, no, Milsa the base Dina, da Gadol Ramya. Something about a Bezdin, it goes on the Gadol. The Gadol is the proper person to say it. It's not Gamrus Hadavar when they finish the Gemar Din. Everything that has to do with the Din Torah, the Av Bezdin is the one who announces, just like he announces if he's acquitted or convicted. He also announces whether they're going to continue discussing or not. Yeah. Okay, we'll start the Mishnah Be'ez Hashem the next time we meet. Gayach.
All right. Have a safe flight, you know.
Thank you.